dawn is a monk in a robe made of gray. I trace every comma and file it away. The ink is so heavy, the silence is thick. Just parchment and dust and the clockwork like tick. No heat in the hearth and the clockwork like tick. No heat in the hearth, just the chill of the scrolls, counting the sins of the literary souls.
Welcome to this deep dive. We are so thrilled you're joining us today. You've handed us an absolutely incredible stack of campaign notes to explore.
Yeah, these are wild.
Literally wild. We are primarily focusing on the insanely eventful Session 13 today. But, we're also drawing on some crucial context from Sessions 8 and 9.
Right, because you really need that background to understand the stakes here.
Exactly. And the mission of our deep dive today is to explore this really profound question. What would you do if you made a promise to pull a soul out of literal hell?
Which is just, it is a staggering premise, because making a promise in the Nine Hells is never just a matter of words, right? Or good intentions. It is a matter of binding cosmic consequence.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand the gravity of what you sent us, we need to really picture the setting first.
Yeah, we have to go back to Avernus.
Right. Imagine you are standing in Avernus, which is the first layer of the Nine Hells. The air is so hot, it steals the breath right out of your lungs.
Oh, absolutely oppressive.
The sky is this sourceless, burning orange. And you're in the Bronze Citadel, which it functions less like a city and more like a permanent, smoldering war camp where devils prepare for eternal battle.
The Blood War.
Exactly. And it's here, in the Cinder Market, that the party's guide, this gold dwarf infernalist named Carilla, she purchases a tiny imp named Cicerox.
And the currency used for this transaction sets such a grim stage, I think. Carilla pays 6 soul coins.
Oh, soul coins.
Yeah. For anyone wondering how the economy of hell actually functions, soul coins are literal, tormented human souls that have been magically stamped into iron discs.
It's so dark.
It is, and they trade them to a highly theatrical cambion named Nereza. And a cambion, just to be clear on the lore for you all listening, is a half-fiend. So the offspring of a fiend and a mortal.
And they're not to be messed with.
Not at all. They are incredibly dangerous, highly charismatic, and they often wield significant influence down there.
And the notes you provided make it clear that Cicerox wasn't just some random pet in a cage, right? She was a highly contested commodity.
Yeah, everybody wanted her.
You have Nalzura, who is an Arcanoloth, basically a powerful, jackal-headed, fiendish spellcaster and information broker. She's also trying to acquire her. There's a legitimate bidding war over this one specific tiny imp.
Which is exactly what makes the subsequent moment back at their inn, the Ashen Cup, so emotionally devastating.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It strips away all that grand cosmic scale of the Blood War, and it makes the horror intensely personal.
It really does. So the party is waiting for their ride out of Avernus. And earlier, Valessa had actually conjured a little, skirt and tank top for the imp.
Which is just a tiny bit of dignity in an incredibly undignified place.
Right. And Cicerox, she reaches her trembling claws through the bars of her infernal iron cage. She tugs on a cloak, and she is absolutely terrified.
Because she knows where she's going.
Exactly. She knows she's being delivered to a powerful Cambion lord named Raphael, and she begs, just desperately begs, to be taken back to Candlekeep, or at least Baldur's Gate, just anywhere but deeper into the hells.
You have this small creature entirely aware of her impending doom, asking for a mercy that is almost, statistically impossible to grant in a place like Avernus.
And someone in the party quietly makes that promise. They tell her they'll get her to Baldur's Gate.
But to actually save a soul, to resurrect her and free her from this devilish form, they need to find out who she was when she was mortal.
Yeah, they need her true name. So keeping this promise turns into this ultimate high-stakes rescue mission. It takes the party from the smoldering ash of Avernus to the greatest repository of knowledge on the Sword Coast.
The transition in your notes here is just phenomenal. They trade the iron gates of a devil's war camp for the iron gates of Candlekeep.
A completely different vibe.
Totally. Candlekeep is this fortress library perched on the cliffs overlooking the Sea of Swords. But getting in, that's an ordeal in itself.
Yeah, Candlekeep does not care about your gold.
Yeah.
I always compare getting into Candlekeep to trying to get into an ultra-exclusive, pretentious VIP club. But instead of a cover charge, the bouncer demands a piece of your brain.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
You have to provide a first gift, This has to be a unique, written work that the library does not already possess. Think about that for a second. If you were standing at those gates, what unique piece of knowledge would you give up?
It's tough.
It's the ultimate barrier to entry because it filters out anyone who isn't utterly dedicated to learning.
Right. It forces the party to audit their own experiences. They take a boat 30 miles south of Baldur's Gate. They wade through the cold ocean surf because the library is so isolated there are no docks, and they hike up the Way of the Lion.
And at the gates, they present their gifts to Gate Warden Mayrover Sable. I love what they come up with for this.
The variety is so good.
It really is. Valessa brings notes she painstakingly copied from a dark arcane tome called the Nathlum, all detailing rare poisons.
Very wizardly.
Right. Then Vagfrir, the barbarian cook, she spends the boat ride furiously writing down a collection of her original recipes.
And the Gate Warden notes that the recipes look suspiciously like the meals the party had the night before.
Yes. But she accepts it anyway, which is great. And Santal hands over historical documents about the reconstruction of Baldur's Gate.
Very practical.
And then Shane, the rogue, drafts an entire manual on gambling cheats and how to catch the people using them. It's just a perfect cross-section of who this party is.
And the library treats these offerings with absolute reverence. They aren't just tossed into a pile. They are officially judged and accepted by the avowed, the monks who dedicate their lives to running the place.
Right.
Only then are they assigned a guide. A young, very strict tiefling named Irony, who takes them to the weapons check. And this weapons check is a masterclass in world building.
Oh my gosh, Shane at the weapons check. So Irony leads them to this locker room, and Shane proceeds to deposit what can only be described as a walking arsenal.
It's ridiculous.
Blades, bows, tools, just an absurd amount of weaponry pulled from every conceivable hidden pocket.
Meanwhile, Valessa, rather than handing over her magical flying broom, which is shaped like a sword, by the way, she just commands it to fly away into the sky to avoid the ban entirely.
A loophole. And Vagfrir even has to store her sentient axe, which is just emotionally muttering to itself in displeasure from inside the logger.
Poor axe. But the mechanics of this scene, they really establish the rules of the space. Candlekeep is a sanctuary in the truest sense of the word. Violence, weapons, the chaos of the outside world, and certainly the chaos of the hells they just left, are explicitly forbidden here.
You leave it at the door.
Exactly. To maintain an environment where pure knowledge can thrive, you have to completely disarm the physical threats of the world.
So they step into the court of the air. You have these monks walking by, literally chanting prophecies about Faerun, crossing them off a list as they come true in real time.
The atmosphere is just so hallowed and intensely serious.
It is. And the party states their noble quest. They need to find the true identity of a scribe who died roughly a century prior, who wrote under the pen name Cicerox.
A very academic pursuit.
Yes. And then their grand, noble investigation takes a wildly unexpected turn right into the fiction section.
It's a brilliant subversion of the dusty, boring library trope, honestly.
Totally. Let's talk about how they find it, because the magic here is really clever. Valessa casts a divination spell called Locate Object, but she uses a forked twig she painstakingly snapped from one of the magically perfectly manicured bushes in the courtyard.
He's resourceful, you have to give her that.
The spell completely bypasses Candlekeep's legendary labyrinthine filing system. The magic just pulls them directly to this dusty, forgotten, completely ignored shelf in the back.
And what is sitting on the shelves?
A massive collection of steamy, dark, romantic chapbooks.
Smutty novels.
Literal smut. Titles like The Fiend in the Velvet Chair and Caught in Only My Best Linen.
I love this title.
They're so funny. And they realize that Cicerox, this tragic soul trapped in an infernal cage that they promised to save, she was an incredibly prolific author of trashy romance novels.
But there is a crucial detail hidden in that trashy romance. When Sirius and Valessa start skimming The Fiend in the Velvet Chair, they realize the Fiend isn't just like a generic bad boy literary trope.
Yeah.
The text specifically refers to Glacia, who is an actual, very real archdevil and the daughter of Asmodeus.
Which completely shifts the perspective. It's not just fiction. I mean, I realize reading this, it's insidious propaganda. She's writing books intimately connected to the ruler of the Nine Hells.
Right.
But how does someone go from writing steamy romance novels about an archdevil to being a highly prized, custom-promoted imp in Avernus? Like, why are Arcanauts and Cambions fighting over a romance novelist?
Well, because we have to contrast human bureaucracy with the terrifying, calculated efficiency of Hell's bureaucracy.
Okay.
When a mortal dies and their soul goes to the Hells, they are typically tossed into the maggot pits as a lemur.
Nasty.
Very. A lemur is a mindless, agonizing blob of flesh used as sheer cannon fodder in the blood war. But the hells value utility above all else. Mortals don't usually fall for pitchforks and fire, right? They fall for velvet chairs and seduction.
Right, so the devils deliberately preserved her mind and her craft.
Exactly. Art isn't beautiful to them. It's a weaponized commodity. A writer who can manipulate mortal emotions, who can normalize or even glamorize fiends to the public, is far more useful than just another mindless foot soldier.
Wow.
Siontel actually says it perfectly in your notes. They say, you sold your soul for marketing.
Which is just, oh my gosh, the ultimate corporate nightmare.
It really is. So she bypassed the maggot pits because she was a useful asset. The party then cross-references the publication dates of these books, the 1460s to 1478 DR.
And for you following along, DR stands for Del Reckoning, which is the standard calendar of this world.
Right, so that means they are looking at deaths from roughly a century prior to their current timeline. They find 2 posthumous novels, which narrows their suspects down to 2 names, Mara Quill, who died in an accident, and Eloin Valavent, who reportedly died in a fire while researching a devil's true name.
And the investigation report for Eloin's death carries a signature with the initial S. The party discovers that S points to one of the great readers of Candlekeep, Silvira Savicus.
A very important figure.
Yeah, extremely. So off they go to the Pillars of Pedagogy to meet this great reader. And the tonal whiplash just continues here. They walk into Archmage Silvira's office, and she is dealing with her pet.
Jezebel.
Yes, a tiny green demon quasit named Jezebel, who is yanking on her robe, screaming, "Mom, it's snacks!" the second she sees the party.
Silvira has to literally smacks the demon on the head and put her in the corner. She clarifies quickly to the party that Jezebel is a demon, not a devil, which is a very important planar distinction, and insists she is on her best behavior.
It provides a great moment of levity before a very, very heavy emotional revelation.
Yeah, the tone shifts drastically.
Because when the party presents their findings that Cicerox might actually be Eloin Valavent, Silvira's entire demeanor changes. She listens to them explain how they found this imp in an iron cage in Avernus, how Raphael and Nalzura were fighting over her.
And Silvira reveals the tragic truth here. Eloin Valavent wasn't just some random scribe. She was Silvira's personal protege.
It is such a heartbreaking realization for a mentor. Silvira had warned her, right? Repeatedly, earnestly, she had warned her apprentice about the dangers of the hells and delving too deeply into infernal research.
But Eloin ignored her. She wanted literary popularity so badly that she willingly signed an infernal pact with Glasia. She traded her eternal soul for book sales, and she paid for it with her life.
You can just feel the weary grief radiating off Silvira in this scene. She's an expert on the plains. She knows exactly what happens to souls down there.
She had already made peace with the fact that her student was gone forever.
But then Siontel makes this incredibly compelling case. They explain they aren't trying to bind the imp to serve them. They want to resurrect Eloin. They want to honor the promise they made in the Bronze Citadel and actually save her.
And that earnestness breaks through Silvira's resignation. She goes to the wall and retrieves a small obsidian box. Inside are 2 items, a simple quill and a locket. Yeah, these are Eloin's personal keepsakes. Silvira hands them over, providing the physical anchors the party will need for a powerful resurrection spell. But then she issues a condition that feels, well, on the surface, incredibly cold.
Yeah, she hands over the items, and then she issues a lifetime ban. She tells the party that if Eloin is returned to the living, she is never welcome within the walls of Candlekeep again.
But in the exact same breath, she quietly asks the party to use a sending spell to let her know if the resurrection actually works.
Because she'd still like to see her. Wait, I have to push back on this. Isn't a lifetime ban exceptionally harsh? She clearly still loves her student. She just helped them get the tools to bring her back to life. Why banish her from her home?
It seems harsh, sure, until you analyze who Silvira is and what Candlekeep represents. This is about boundary setting and the absolute nature of planar consequences. Silvira understands the infectious nature of the hells better than anyone. An infernal pact leaves a permanent stain. Eloin willingly invited an archdevil's influence into her life. Candlekeep is the greatest sanctuary of knowledge in the world, and it has to be protected from that kind of taint.
That makes sense. It's a profound lesson on the permanence of our choices. You can get a second chance at life through a resurrection, but you don't get to magically erase the consequences of the path you walked.
No, you really don't.
You cannot unsign a deal with Glasia. Eloan lost her right to this sanctuary the moment she put pen to paper.
Exactly. And Eloan's banishment proves that infernal pacts leave a permanent physical stain. You can't just wash the hells away. And that permanent stain is exactly what the party is about to discover is sitting inside Valessa's own body.
Here's where it gets really interesting and honestly, deeply horrifying. The conversation in Silvira's office is winding down. They're talking about the lingering effects of the hells, and Valessa just casually drops a detail.
So casual.
She says, "Oh yeah, by the way, after we got back from Avernus, I threw up this strange orange and black centipede-like creature." Who casually drops that? How do you ignore regurgitating a demonic insect until an archmage points it out?
I mean, Silvira certainly doesn't ignore it. She goes perfectly still. She asks Valessa to describe it in detail, and she sketches it out. An orange and black centipede with a triangular mark and a V shape beneath it.
And Silvira just looks at the sketch and says, "That's the mark of Asmodeus."
The absolute lord of the nine hells.
The gravity in the room shifts instantly. Circe, the paladin, immediately tries to intervene medically. She casts Lesser Restoration.
Now, we need to look at why this happens next. Lesser Restoration is a spell designed to cure diseases and conditions.
Right.
But instead of helping, the spell violently backfires. Valessa is suddenly hit with overwhelming nausea and vomits into a bowl that Silvira barely manages to shove under her in time.
Think about the mechanism of the spell. Lesser Restoration tries to flesh out an illness. But the parasite isn't a disease, it's a living fiend. The magic essentially poked a sleeping hellbug, and the fiend fought back violently against Valessa's stomach.
That is the perfect way to understand the magical interaction. So Circe tries a different approach. She casts protection from evil and good, and the result is immediate. Valessa suddenly feels lighter, her mood improves, her intense nausea fades.
And again, the mechanism here explains everything. A protection spell creates a magical quarantine. It wards off fiendish influence. It didn't cure her, it just put the hellbug to sleep, basically suppressing the fiend's connection to the host.
Which is a terrifying confirmation. The fact that a ward against fiends suppresses her symptoms proves that the centipede she threw up wasn't just a stray bug she accidentally swallowed in the ash of Avernus.
No, definitely not.
A fiendish parasite has been quietly living inside her gut this entire time.
Seantal, true to form, just deadpans.
You're drinking for two now.
That's so funny. Because Valessa had admitted earlier she'd been drinking heavier than usual lately. But jokes aside, Silvira issues a very grave warning. She tells them, in no uncertain terms, that the moment they get back to Baldur's Gate, they need to find a powerful cleric immediately.
Yeah, this isn't a minor ailment they can fix with a quick spell on the road.
At all.
This illustrates the insidious nature of infernal corruption perfectly. The hells don't always attack you with fire, pitchforks, or armies of screaming demons. Sometimes they plant something small, quiet, and parasitic inside you.
Wow.
It connects back to the core theme of everything you sent us. Whether it's Illo and Valavant willingly selling her soul for book sales or Valessa unknowingly picking up a biological hitchhiker in Avernus, interactions with the hells always leave a mark. You simply do not walk away clean.
You really don't.
Yeah.
It is a chilling realization. If you look at the notes you provided for this session, it makes you wonder about the, infernal bargains we make in our own lives, doesn't it? Obviously, we aren't signing literal contracts with Glacia for literary fame. But what are the shortcuts we are tempted to take for popularity or success? What compromises do we make? And what hidden parasites like stress, compromised morals, toxic relationships might those shortcuts leave behind in our own guts?
Eloan thought she was just getting a marketing boost from an archdevil. She didn't realize she was trading her sanctuary, her art, and her life. The cost is never what is printed on the label.
Never. So what does this all mean? Look at the incredible whiplash of this journey. The party went to the most prestigious, hyper-secure library in the world to check out a book.
Yep.
They discovered their tragic target was a smut author who weaponized her own art and sold her soul for clout. They walked out carrying the keepsakes to cure a resurrected friend, armed with a lifetime ban from a grieving mentor, and carrying a literal ticking time bomb sitting right inside their wizard's stomach.
It is a masterclass in escalating stakes. They solved one historical mystery, only to uncover a much more immediate physical and terrifying threat to one of their own.
And that leaves us with a final, chilling question to ponder before we go. We know that Asmodeus is the ultimate chess player of the cosmos, right?
He doesn't do anything by accident.
Exactly.
Right.
So did the Lore of the Nine Hells plan for this specific parasite to hitch a ride inside Valessa specifically using her as a Trojan horse to infiltrate the high society of Baldur's Gate? Or is Valessa just collateral damage, an accidental host in a much larger, unseen, infernal game? We'll have to see where the dice fall in your next sessions.
I wouldn't bet against Asmodeus having a plan.
Neither would I. Until next time, keep an eye on your shortcuts and maybe double-check your stomach aches.
Dawn is a monk in a robe made of gray. I trace every comma and file it away. The ink is so heavy, the silence is thick. Just parchment and dust and the clockwork like tick. No heat in the hearth and the clockwork like tick. No heat in the hearth, just the chill of the scrolls, counting the sins of the literary souls. But oh, for the velvet and oh, for the lace, I'm swapping the margins for scenes of disgrace. Hey, nor of the scriptures, the ink has gone red. I'm sewing the scandals inside of your head. From linen-clad lovers to fiends in your head. From linen-clad lovers to fiends in the dark. I'm igniting the archive with just one small spark. The lantern is guttering low in my room. Sultry breath swell. I'm breeding a chaos that's destined to bloom. A pact for the pages, a price for the fame. I gave them a soul just to mention my name. The ink is infernal, the paper is hot. I'm everything that a librarian is not. The red-hot applause and the cheers from the pit. I'd sell every heaven just for a small hit. They offered a fountain of venom and wine, and I didn't stop for a single small sign. Now look at the feathers, the claws and the wings, writing the smut for the monarchs and kings. Yes, oh for the velvet and oh for the lace. I'm swapping the margins for scenes of disgrace. Hey, nor of the scriptures, the ink has gone red. I'm sewing the scandals inside of your head. From linen-clad lovers to fiends in your head. From linen-clad lovers to fiends in the dark. I'm igniting the archive with just one small spark. Yeah! Dust and the ashes, just a little imp with a pen. Anyone want a copy?